So here's something nobody wants to hear, but it's true. Your brain is not on your side. Like, it's not trying to help you create the life you want. It's trying to keep you consistent with the life you already have. And it's really, really good at it. That's why you can want something so badly, and your brain will still talk you out of it. That's why you can see opportunity right in front of you, and your brain will convince you it won't work for you. Not because you're self-sabotaging, but because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's filtering reality to match your existing beliefs. And until you understand that mechanism, you're going to keep fighting yourself. So let's break it down. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 distinctions, 5 ideas about how your brain creates your experience of reality. Not your circumstances, your experience of them. And by the end, you'll understand why you keep seeing the same patterns, why positive thinking doesn't stick, and why changing your mind isn't about lying to yourself. It's about catching your brain in the act of lying to you. And then we're going to do a 24-hour experiment together. Something simple, something you can actually test today. Because this isn't theory. This is literally how the filtering system in your mind works. And before we go any further, I just need to say this. If you've been working on yourself, like you've read the books, you've done the meditations, you've tried the techniques, and you still feel like you're fighting your own mind, this is for you. Because most of the time, it's not that the teachings don't work. It's that you're running them through a filtering system that was never designed to show you possibility. It was designed to show you patterns. Alright, so distinction number 1. And this is huge. Your brain doesn't show you reality. It shows you what validates your current beliefs. So let me explain what I mean here. Your brain processes about 11 million bits of information per second. That's like visual data, sounds, sensations, all your internal signals, everything. But your conscious mind? It can only handle like 40 to 50 bits per second. So your brain has to filter. It has to decide what gets through and what gets ignored. And the filter it uses? Your belief systems. Here's what this looks like in real life. Let's say you believe, and you might not even know you believe this consciously, but let's say you believe that money is hard to make. You're not walking around saying this out loud, but it's running in the background, right? Now you go through your day, you see a bill. Your brain highlights it. You hear someone complain about the economy. Your brain files that as important. You check your account. Your brain zooms in on what's missing, not what's there. Meanwhile, someone messages you about an opportunity, but you're in a distracted state, so you don't even register it. Like, it just doesn't land. A friend mentions a side project that worked for them, but your brain dismisses it. Yeah, but that's different. That wouldn't work for me. What just happened? Your brain wasn't lying about reality. It was selecting from reality. It showed you the version that matched your assumption. And here's the part that really messes people up. It feels like truth. It feels like you're just being realistic. But realism, like that word realistic, it's just another word for the pattern you keep validating. So here's how the mechanism works. Your beliefs determine your focus. Your focus determines what you notice. What you notice becomes your evidence. Your evidence reinforces your beliefs. And the loop just continues. So here's the move. Just start noticing what your brain is highlighting. Not to argue with it, not to fight it, just to see it as a filtering system, not a truth detector. When you catch yourself saying, "See, it's always like this," that's not insight, that's confirmation bias in action. Are you tracking with me? Because this next one builds on this. If your brain is a filter, the question becomes, okay, well, what's driving the filter? And the answer is actually simpler than you think. Distinction number 2. The RAS is a filter, not a truth detector. Okay, so the reticular activating system, the RAS, it's this network of neurons in your brainstem, and its job is to decide what information is relevant and what gets deleted. It's why you can be in a crowded room, not hearing anything clearly, and the moment someone says your name, you hear it. Your RAS flagged it as important. Now here's where this gets interesting. Your RAS doesn't care about truth, it cares about relevance. And relevance is determined by what you've told it matters. So if you've decided, through repetition, through emotion, through identity, that I'm always behind is true, your RAS will find every piece of evidence that supports that. Not because it's trying to hurt you, because that's literally its job. It's trying to keep you consistent with who you think you are. Let me give you a real example from my life. I used to believe I wasn't the kind of person who could build a business without burning out. And every time I worked hard, my brain would highlight the exhaustion. It would zoom in on the tasks that felt heavy. It would remind me of past failures. Meanwhile, I would completely miss signs of momentum. Like a client win? Yeah, but it's not sustainable. A good month? It's a fluke. My RAS wasn't showing me the full picture. It was showing me the version that matched my identity. And here's what shifted for me. I realized my RAS was just doing what I trained it to do. So I started training it differently. Not by pretending I wasn't tired, like I'm not talking about toxic positivity here, but by giving it new instructions. I'm someone who builds sustainably. And then I started looking for evidence of that. Moments where I rested and still made progress. Decisions where I chose ease over force. And the more I looked, the more my RAS started highlighting those moments instead. So here's the move. Your RAS is taking orders from your beliefs. If you want different results, you don't need to change your circumstances first. You need to change the instructions. What are you telling your RAS to look for? So we've established your brain filters reality based on your beliefs, and your RAS executes those filters automatically. Now let's talk about why this feels so sticky. Like, why does it feel like you can't see differently even when you want to? Distinction number 3. Confirmation bias isn't a bug. It's the operating system. Most people think confirmation bias is something they need to avoid. Like, oh, I'm being biased. But here's the truth. Confirmation bias is how your brain works. It's not a flaw, it's a feature. Your brain is designed to look for patterns, validate those patterns, and then act on them efficiently. That's how you survive. That's how you function without having to consciously process every single piece of information. The problem is, most people are running confirmation bias on the wrong beliefs. They're validating scarcity. They're validating I'm not enough. They're validating this never works for me. And the brain just says, got it. Let me show you more of that. Here's a personal example. Early in my journey, I believed I was bad at relationships. Not in like a dramatic way. Just this quiet assumption that I wasn't the kind of person who attracted healthy partnerships. And my brain confirmed it constantly. I'd meet someone, and within a few interactions, I'd find the red flag. I'd notice where they weren't showing up. I'd interpret ambiguity as rejection. And I'd walk away thinking, see? Same pattern. But here's what I wasn't noticing. I wasn't seeing the moments they were showing up. I wasn't giving weight to the connections that felt easy. My brain was filtering for the pattern I expected. And because I expected disappointment, I found it. Every time. What changed? I made a new decision. Not like, I'm great at relationships, in some fake affirmation way. Just, I'm learning to recognize healthy connection when it shows up. And I started looking for it. Not forcing it, just noticing it. And the more I noticed it, the more my brain started filing those moments as significant. The pattern shifted. Not because people changed, because my confirmation bias had new instructions. So here's the move. Stop trying to eliminate confirmation bias. You can't. Instead, aim it at what you actually want. Your brain is going to confirm something. Make sure it's confirming possibility, not limitation. Okay, let's make this even more practical, because I know what you're thinking right now. Okay, but I do see evidence of the problem. It's not just in my head. And you're right, the evidence exists. But here's the distinction that changes everything. Distinction number 4. What you call evidence is just selective attention. This is where people get stuck. They say, but I see the problem. My bank account is low. The relationship is difficult. The opportunity didn't work out. That's not my belief. That's reality. And here's what I want you to understand. Yes, the circumstance exists, but the meaning you're giving it, the story you're building around it, the conclusions you're drawing from it, that's where your brain is lying to you. Let me break this down. Let's say your bank account is lower than you'd like. That's a fact, right? But here's what your brain does with that fact. It doesn't just register the number. It builds a narrative. I'm always behind. I can never get ahead. Everyone else has it figured out. Something's wrong with me. None of that is in the bank account. That's your brain taking one data point and confirming a pre-existing belief. And here's the proof. Two people can look at the same bank account number and have completely different experiences. One person sees it and thinks, I'm behind, I'm failing. Another person sees it and thinks, okay, I'm building, this is temporary, I've solved this before. Same number, different filter. So the evidence isn't the problem. The problem is what you're doing with the evidence. Your brain is using selective attention to build a case for the belief you already have. It's highlighting the negative, minimizing the positive, ignoring the neutral. And it's doing this automatically, beneath your conscious awareness. Here's a real example from my life. I had a month once where 3 client calls got canceled. My brain immediately went to, see, people don't value this work. I'm not connecting. Something's off. And I could feel that story settling in. But then I paused. I looked at the actual data. One person had a family emergency. One rescheduled for the following week. One was dealing with a tech issue. None of it had anything to do with me or the value of the work. But my brain had already used it as evidence for, I'm not good enough. So here's the move. When you notice yourself building a story around a circumstance, stop. Separate the fact from the interpretation. The fact is neutral. Your interpretation is where your belief system is working. And if the interpretation is making you feel bad, it's probably a limiting belief, not truth. All right, so we've covered 4 distinctions so far. Your brain filters reality. The RAS executes the filter. Confirmation bias is the operating system. And what you call evidence is selective attention. Now here's the final distinction. And this is the one that makes everything else actually actionable. Distinction number 5. Changing your reality means changing what you're looking for. This is where it all comes together. If your brain is filtering reality, and the filter is determined by your beliefs, and your beliefs are confirmed by what you pay attention to, then the fastest way to change your experience is to change what you're looking for. Not by ignoring problems, not by pretending everything's fine, but by consciously directing your attention toward what you actually want to validate. Because here's the truth. There is always evidence for multiple realities. Always. In any given moment, there is evidence that you're behind, and evidence that you're progressing. Evidence that it's hard, and evidence that it's unfolding. Evidence of lack, and evidence of abundance. Your brain can only show you one of those streams at a time. So the question is, which one are you tuned into? Here's how this showed up for me. I used to check my business metrics obsessively. Revenue, engagement, conversions. And my brain would always zoom in on what was missing. We should be further along. This should be growing faster. And I'd feel this low-grade anxiety constantly. Not because the business was failing, but because I was training my brain to look for the gap. Then I made a shift. I started a daily practice where I wrote down 3 pieces of evidence that things were working. Not fake positivity, just what actually moved forward today. A conversation that went deeper than expected. A message from someone who was applying the work. A process that felt easier than it used to. And at first it felt forced. My brain kept wanting to go back to the problem. But over time, my RAS started highlighting these moments automatically. My filter changed. And my experience of reality shifted. Same business, same challenges, different lens, different emotional experience, different decisions, different results. So here's the move. You don't change your reality by fighting what's wrong. You change it by training your brain to notice what's right. Not as a distraction, as a recalibration of the filter. All right, so those are the 5 distinctions. Now let's make this practical because understanding the mechanism is one thing. Applying it is where the shift actually happens. So here's a simple experiment. You don't have to do this forever. Just do it for 24 hours, one day, and notice what happens. I call this the 24-hour belief audit, and it's really simple. Step 1. Pick one area of your life. Money, relationships, health, purpose, career. Just one. Don't try to do everything. Pick the area where you feel the most resistance or frustration right now. Step 2. Notice your automatic reactions. For the next 24 hours, every time you interact with that area, every time you check your bank account, think about the relationship, look at your body, consider your work. Pause for 5 seconds and notice the story your brain delivers. Not to judge it, just to catch it. Write it down if you can, or just make a mental note. What does your brain say? See? It's not working. I'm always behind. Other people have it easier. I can't figure this out. Those are your brain's default filters. Those are the beliefs your RAS is confirming. Step 3. Identify the selective attention. For each reaction, ask yourself, what am I highlighting right now? What am I ignoring? Because remember, your brain is showing you part of reality, not all of it. So when you think, I'm always behind, what are you noticing? And what are you not noticing? Step 4. Recode the filter. This is the move. For each limiting belief you catch, define a new instruction for your brain, not as a lie, as a possibility. So for example, old filter, money is hard to make. New instruction, money flows to me in ways I'm learning to recognize. Or, old filter, I'm always behind. New instruction, I'm exactly where I need to be for my next breakthrough. Or, old filter, people always disappoint me. New instruction, I'm learning to recognize and attract relationships that honor who I am. Notice the language. It's not, I have unlimited money, if that feels delusional to you. It's, I'm learning to recognize. That's a reframe your brain can actually accept. Step 5. Look for evidence of the new filter. For the rest of the day, your job is to notice anything that supports the new instruction. Even tiny things, even neutral things. You're not making it up. You're redirecting your RAS. You're giving your confirmation bias new instructions. And here's what's going to happen. At first, your brain will resist. It will keep wanting to go back to the old pattern. That's normal. That's just the old filter still running. But if you keep redirecting, even for 24 hours, you will notice a shift. Not in your circumstances, in your experience of them. All right, now I know what some of you are thinking, and I want to address the objections head on because if you don't answer these, your brain will use them to dismiss the whole framework. Objection 1. But what if I'm just being delusional? What if I'm ignoring real problems? Here's the distinction. You're not ignoring the problem. You're separating the problem from the meaning you're giving it. The circumstance is real. The story you're building around it is optional. And the story is what creates your emotional state, which drives your decisions, which creates your results. So no, you're not being delusional. You're being discerning. You're catching your brain in the act of selective attention and choosing a different focus. That's not denial. That's agency. Objection 2. What if the evidence really is overwhelming? What if I can't find anything positive? Then you're not looking hard enough. And I don't mean that harshly. I mean your RAS is so locked onto the negative filter that it's dismissing everything else as irrelevant. So, start smaller. Don't look for everything's amazing. Look for one thing moved today. One decision you made from clarity instead of fear. One moment where you didn't spiral. One person who showed up. One task that felt easier than it used to. Your brain will say, that's not enough. Don't listen. That's the old filter talking. You're not trying to prove the problem is gone. You're training your RAS to notice progress. Objection 3. How do I stop seeing the old pattern? It's everywhere. You don't stop seeing it. You just stop confirming it. This is the key. The old pattern will still show up. Your brain will still highlight it. But instead of saying, see, it's always like this, you say, interesting. My brain is showing me that filter again. And then you redirect. It's like being in a stream of water. You're not trying to stop the current. You're just choosing to swim in a different direction. The old current is still there. You're just not entangled with it anymore. So let's bring this home. Your brain is not showing you reality. It's showing you a filtered version of reality, and the filter is your belief system. The RAS is executing that filter automatically. Confirmation bias is the operating system. It's not a bug. It's how your brain works. What you call evidence is selective attention, and the fastest way to change your reality is to change what you're looking for. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about understanding that you have a filtering system, and that filtering system is either working for you or against you. Most people are running it on autopilot, validating limitations they don't even want. But you don't have to. You can catch your brain in the act. You can recode the filter. You can train your RAS to look for possibility instead of proof of the problem. And when you do that, your emotional state shifts. Your decisions shift. Your results shift. Not overnight, but consistently, predictably, because you're working with the mechanism, not against it. So run the 24-hour experiment, just one day, and notice what happens. If this landed for you, make sure you're subscribed. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's stuck in the same story, the same pattern, send them this video. Because the more people who understand how the filter works, the less we all get trapped by it. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.